Hey guys, this is Enthos, and today I'm going to show you my Elden Ring to Cascadeur workflow / template. And if you're curious, this is basically just something that allows you to import existing animations or retargets into Cascadeur, edit them, and get them back in-game. Or even create custom animations from scratch. Within Cascadeur, obviously. It's a very powerful animation software. You can do a lot of cool things with it. I have not even messed with the auto physics very much, but that is a feature. Auto posing is really helpful. There's just a lot of cool things. But I'm not really going to be touching any of that. If you want to, obviously, the Cascadeur official YouTube channel is a good resource. I'll also link their Discord server in my description. But yeah, so let's just get into it. What are we looking at here? So this is a 3ds Max scene that I'm including in the download. We have one other one. This one's the Elden Ring Cascadeur Max file. And then we also have the exporting one. That one comes for last. We're going to focus on the Cascadeur one, and I'm going to tell you what is in here. So, at the time, for the time being, we only have these 3 weapons imported. I'll make more in the future if I'm asked, or just whenever I feel like it. Or I'll make a video on how to do it yourself. But for now, I just want to get this out there, so that people can mess with it. So, apart from the weapons, which have their own bones even for just a smoother animation experience, we have 2 skeletons. So one's vanilla, it's just the skeleton HKX imported with the Havoc Max plugin, and one is an edited skeleton with a special prefix that has one big difference, and that is the spine bone is a child of the pelvis bone instead of a child of the root rot XZ bone. You can see that's where it is here. Apart from that though, it is exactly the same, and I just have everything bound with constraints to the vanilla skeleton. What that allows us to do is import existing animations, be it HKX or FBX. So as an example, here is just the bare fist idle imported. These are the settings I use, by the way. Yeah, so import. You can see that the Cascadeur skeleton, despite having a different prefix on all of its bones, moves with the vanilla skeleton. And that's great for us because that hierarchy edit that I made is necessary for Cascadeur. So now that we have that, I guess the next step to do once you've picked out your animation you want to edit is select the weapon you want to include. So I'm going to do sword and shield as for this example. So just unhide everything you want to unhide except for the vanilla skeleton. Select all with Control-A, File, Export selected, and go to your destination. I'm going to call this 2cask.fbx. For export settings, main thing I change is disable Turbo Smooth, enable tangents binormals, and then in animation, go down to bake animation, bake the animation. Everything else should be fine, just make sure scale factor is 1.0 and press OK. Then you can go to Cascadeur, import a scene, import the file you just exported from Max, enter rig mode, cancel the rig mode helper, we don't need that, and go to import export with T-pose, and we're going to choose, we're going to look at these rig files that I'm also including in the download. So this is kind of weird, we do need to use 2 different rig files. In my case, actually in every case, you're going to want to do the Elden Ring auto pose first. This will basically only include 2 of the spine bones instead of all 3, because that is what Cascadeur requires for the auto posing to work. So once you've imported that, it should look like this. Generate rig. And you'll see that once it finishes loading, the whole animation is loaded. And if you press this button down here, it'll fit the timeline to the exact animation size. And you'll see that there's only 2 spine bones here, spine and spine 1, which is a problem because now the posture is incorrect. But we can use auto posing, which is a huge plus. I'm not going to explain like how to use Cascadeur in this video, but definitely check out the Cascadeur learning channel on YouTube, and I'll also link their Discord server in the description. So anyway, auto posing works, that's great, but we need to fix that posture thing, right? So the workaround I came up with, by accident actually, is going back to rig mode, hitting import again, and this time we import another rig that actually does have 3 bones. So in this case, since I'm doing a sword and shield, I'm going to use Elden Ring SNS, sword and shield. And the auto posing is already created. You don't need to uncheck it, but you can if you want. But when I press generate a rig, you'll see that now we actually have these weapon bones, and we have all 3 spine bones in the point controller mode. And then in auto posing, we still only have 2. Now one other problem is, since we already generated with the auto posing rig, the animation kind of got overridden. Right, it's only using 2 bones in the animation now, and that's kind of unavoidable. As long as you generate auto posing, it will remove that bone from the animation. So what we need to do to counter that is make a new scene, import it again, same animation. This time we're not even going to bother going to rig mode, but we're going to go to the regular joint mode, select everything with Control A, click and drag the whole animation, Control Shift C to copy all the bones. Actually, better practice than Control A is to right click the root bone and say select branch. That'll select everything, even if it's a dummy and not a bone. Control Shift C, select here, same thing, select everything, go to master again, select branch, Control Shift V, and you'll see that the posture got fixed. So that's great. So now that the posture is fixed, what else can we do? So obviously you're not going to just want to have the idle in Cascadeur and stop there. Let's say you want to edit a retarget. So you can select all these frames besides the first one. Obviously you'll want to start from idle for most moves. So select all those by clicking and dragging. Alt F will remove them, and I'll do something as an example. Let's import something else I've already constrained. Alright, so these are basically, I followed the same process as the 2 cask FBX, just with a retargeted animation. Let me show you how to do that real quick actually. So I'm going to refresh this scene, the Cascadeur scene, import. So if it's not an HKX, these are the settings you'll want to use. For when you import, make sure it's update animation and make sure you have fill timeline here. And then obviously make sure your units are correct. In my case, I exported this from Unreal Engine. This needs to be at meters. So actually, this needs to be, I can't remember actually. I think meters, yeah. It'll look messed up if you chose the wrong units, but you'll figure it out. Yeah, meters was right. So I'm going to keep everything the same. Vanilla's hidden, great. Export. And I'll call this just retargeted. Make sure you do the same settings. My settings don't save for some reason, but yeah. Yours probably will, so you don't have to worry about that. So here's retargeted. You don't have to worry about rig mode for this either, because we're just going to be copying and pasting. One thing I also want to note, which is why this is a great example, is my retarget doesn't have posed fingers. So what we could do is actually just keep the posed fingers from the idle and paste everything besides that here. So it's a Valorheart R1. I don't think I mentioned that. I'm going to copy everything besides the first frame, or frame 0, because we already have an idle. So click and drag 1 to 81. Control A, that'll open up the whole hierarchy. Right click, select branch on the master, and we're going to deselect all of the finger bones. So just do this. I'm holding control and just clicking all the finger bones. That'll deselect them. I don't know of a faster way to do this, but it's not that bad. So once you have all the fingers deselected, same thing, Control Shift C to copy, go back to your initial scene, and we can go here, select branch, Control Shift V. And you can see that the hands are still posed, or the hands are now posed like they were in the idle. In my case, it's fine if they stay clenched the entire time because he's holding 2 weapons. So yeah, if you do need to rig or move fingers, you can use the box controller mode, I believe. And if you want to hide props, you can select all the frames, click on the objects in the outliner. In my case, I'm going to remove the right shield and the left sword. Enable this, apply on selected interval, go to basic, and hit invisible. So now we can only see 2 props, and that's great. Little interruption. One thing I did fail to remember to bring up is that the reason we have 2 swords and 2 shields in every scene is it's to allow for mirroring. So, you know, normal animations from Elden Ring export as left-handed, but sometimes you may really want to animate right-handed because that's how it'll look in game. Well, mirroring in Cascadeur is really easy, and it doesn't hurt the skeleton at all. It just it literally mirrors the rotations. So you can select all these frames, Control A in flank controller mode, go to mirror tool, explain mirror on interval, and that will make our guy right-handed instead of left-handed. If you do this, make sure to do it again before you export to max, because he does need to be left-handed in the grand scheme of things. But it does make it really nice to be able to edit a right-handed character. So yeah, obviously just hide and unhide, same deal as before. If you mirror, for it to look correct. But yeah, it's kind of hard to see with this rig, but there are controllers for these fingers if you want to edit them on this frame, you know. You can also simplify frames by or like simplify your frame count by just like finding the key pose before the last one. So say I want this one just go straight to 81. By removing these frames with Alt F and then setting the interpolation here, makes it a lot easier to edit things. So like if I wanted this finger to slowly open from this frame to this frame, you can mess with different types of interpolation too. I find that Bezier clamped just works perfectly 99% of the time for me. But yeah, anyway, I'm not going to teach the software in this video, like I said, so mess with it. You can use auto posing. Last thing actually that I want to show is setting the end idle to be correct. So I've already simplified this, but DS3's idle stance is actually different from Elden Ring. So you can see that sword position's different, shield position's different. There are actually a lot of subtle differences. What we can do to get the idle to the same position is go into the outliner, go in the outliner, close auto posing, close all this stuff. Go into rig, centers of mass. You'll see on frame 81, on our last frame, we go to transform, global position Z. We can copy that. We can paste frame 0 by clicking it, holding shift, middle click, dragging all the way to 81 to the last frame, and then pasting that global position here. So now it'll transition all the way from our last keyframe to the Elden Ring idle. And yeah, there are just a lot of things you can do to clean this up. It's still not very smooth, so I'll show you an example that I already did with the same animation. I cleaned it up further. It's the same animation, but you can see the sword in particular. Let me actually just select the bone, and I'll show you. With this enabled, the trajectory turn, you can see how smooth it moves into place. That's one notable change I made. If I select this here, you can see it's definitely not as smooth. It just goes straight down from the DS3 idle, which isn't very natural. But you can get a lot more quality retargets if you do this stuff. Another example, this was a Monster Hunter retarget. So obviously the initial retarget had it go to the Monster Hunter idle, which was not what I wanted. But I made a lot of modifications. You can see simplifying those keyframes made it much easier to edit. Really only needed to do it at the beginning and at the end, but you can see it transitions straight into the Elden Ring idle, which is a lot less awkward. But yeah, hopefully I explained that well. Hopefully this video isn't too long. I tried to go as fast as I could, but it is a lot to take in, and I'm not sure if I missed anything. But getting this back into the game is very simple. All you have to do is file, export without meshes, and let's call this from Cask for simplicity's sake. Now when we go back to Max, we can go to the exporting scene, and the setup is basically the same as the last scene, just in the reverse. So the vanilla is constrained to the Cascadeur skeleton. So let me go ahead and find that from Cask. We're going to do the same thing, update and fill timeline. Make sure the units are correct. They should be inches, so this, even though it looks funny, is correct. And you can see that this is the vanilla skeleton. I know this one's the green one now, that's kind of confusing. But the green one and the export is correct. The IK also looks funny. I wasn't sure how to handle that, but it looked fine in game from what I could tell, so I think it's fine. Yeah, now we have straight from Cascadeur into Max. We can export with Havoc Content Tools. With this other configuration I'm going to be including in the download. My settings don't always save for some reason, but main things to change are just the frame count. So down here you can see 72 frames, that's what you type here. And right to platform, I'm just going to manually type something. Yeah, that's fine. So now you can see that we have this. That is the HKX file. You can use that in game and it will work. Again, I'll include both Max scenes, all my rig files, and the Havoc Content Tools setup or configuration in the download. Ping me on Discord if you have any questions or if you want more weapon rigs added. I just haven't gotten to them yet because I'm not even making other movesets myself. But yeah. Thanks for watching, and I hope that wasn't too long.